Hi, everyone. I am Craig Meyer. I was supposed to present at the Four Cs of last week on April 10th, 2025, and I was unable to make it. And I want to extend my apologies for that. My mother had some issues, and I had to divert there and manage that situation. If you have parents that are aging, you recognize the conundrum I was in. Do I present or do I take care of my mom? And of course, I had to take care of my mom. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and share it as you see fit. And you're welcome to ask questions. So contact me. So at the end, I provide my email address and my LinkedIn. You're welcome to do that, of course. So Dysfluency, Imitation, and AI in the first year running classroom. Again, I'm Craig Meyer. I'm at Jackson State in Jackson, Mississippi. And let's get to some of the background. I am a Dysfluent speaker. You'll probably notice a few times during this presentation, I'm going to stumble along. I've been stumbling along most of my life. So I'm a stutterer. I call that dysfluency. DYS fluency. And I of course with dysfluency, as you can imagine, growing up, I was teased quite a bit about my speech, but I've also used it to find strength. So in that, as some of the things that some people consider a weakness, one of our strengths is we turn that around and we make it a strength. And that is partly what I've done with some of my work as a scholar. And with Dysfluency, I think there's a way to connect the dots to how Dysfluency connects to Imitation, to Gen AI, and also the writing classroom. So that's the bridge, and let's get to the big three. The big three are Dysfluency, and with Dysfluency, with fluency, there is this expectation of fluency, which is the the normality of speech. And so with dysfluency, we disrupt that like a bit. So looking through the lens of dysfluency allows us to recognize that we can enhance verbal attentiveness, and there is a rhetorical perception. So looking through that lens as well. Of course, there is a verbal nuance when someone has a block or they have where they repeat. So a syllable, there is an impression of what that leaves on the listener, but also them as a speaker. And circumlocution, I'll come back to in I think my next slide. But let's get to imitation. Of course, there's historical context to that. Going back quite a ways, we recognize we learn most things by imitating them. So we learn to walk by imitating those around us. They're up walking around like, gosh, I kind of want to do that. So you get up and fall a few times, but over time, you imitate what they're doing. Tying shoelaces, all those things we learned as a child, not all, but most of the things we learned as a child, we picked up by imitating those around us. So also it provides a specific kind of learning for us all that we can all learn from. In addition to that, it provides us different ways of learning. Again, referring to imitation. So there's ease of transfer because once we have the idea, so the concept is easy to transfer to others. I would talk very briefly about the types that I have theorized to some degree. If you read my piece in Writing Spaces, and I believe it was 2020, I talked about structural, and that is looking at the form and so doing imitating the form of a piece of writing. Contextual is referring to the meaning of something and copying that meaning, of course, in your own words. And then performative. I developed in Irene Clark's book on imitation. I think that was in 2023. I wrote chapter 6 of that book. If you have a chance, go ahead and pick that up. It's a pretty good book, and I have chapter 6. So the performative there is taking on the mindset of someone and performing as if you were that person. So producing work based on that perspective. Okay, Gen AI is another spot I'm going to hit. So sweet on in a few slides here. And of course, we know students are so we have this balance of students that are using it as a crutch, and some are using it as a tool. We are very hopeful that they use it as a tool and not a crutch, but we can talk about that so later on. We also recognize that Gen AI has some things going for it. It helps us enhance our critical thinking if we use it the right way. So it can provide us many different perspectives that we may not be aware of, and of course, so being mindful of how we can prompt the AI to do specific things. So let's get to dysfluency. So looking at things from a dysfluency lens, so it allows us to challenge linguistic conventions. Going back to the concept of normality allows us to challenge that. What is normal? What is dysfluent? We are all dysfluent speakers. We all stutter at various times. We all have hiccups at certain times. We all stumble at various times. So circumlocution. I've been told that I am a master of circumlocution, which basically means instead of having the specific word I may not be able to say, I circumlocute around the word by explaining the concept or the idea instead of that word that I may not be able to say. So an example of that here is having a server in like a restaurant. So it's versus calling them a food and beverage delivery specialist and therapist, because we all know that they do more than just serve food. They also they also do like the math for like a check perhaps, but also sometimes they act like a pretty good therapist. So circumlocution is saying things in different ways, and it helps things. So it helps us explain the complexity of various concepts. Now, sorry, I'm rushing along because I do want to get through this, and I'm already at 7 minutes, but I'm trying to get through this in the time frame that I would have had at the 4Cs. So dysfluency, because of circumlocution, we also have a deeper wealth of word choice skills. So by looking through that lens, we have more words that we can pick from and ways to explain things. So I also think by looking through a dysfluent lens, so it can boost our strategic thinking skills, because you have to think about, okay, how is this going to be heard by my listeners? How is this going to be read by my listeners? So thinking like through that from a strategic standpoint. And of course, being able to recognize vocal variations is so think of texting. So texting, oftentimes we lose the tone of what someone is saying, but with this fluency, so as vocalized, we have more nuance there, and we can attend to that in slightly a different way. On to imitation. Of course, we recognize that it provides we're learning by doing type of model, so it gives us a different paths to get to a different things, and so it helps us to negate ways of explaining things. So stylistic variation, of course, when we imitate, we have many different ways that we can approach it. I'm thinking of Erasmus, which which I'll hit on in just a few minutes, but here as well. So Erasmus, as you might recall, he had an example of your letter pleased me greatly, and he rewrote that 195 different times to show that he could write it that many times. Okay, so the cognitive load. So I think by working with imitation, so it decreases the cognitive load on us, and allows us to enhance our creativity. Okay, Gen AI, as we know, it is here to stay. It is a simple but complex tool, and what I mean by that is that it's simple to use, but getting the right outputs can be very complex. So there is kind of this back and forth idea that I'm struggling with AI. It's simple, but it's complex because it's so nuanced in what you can do with it. I've been thinking about the next two bullet points an awful lot. I wrote a piece in Double Helix, I want to say last year or 2 years ago. So the subtitle was Voice of Like the Other. And I was thinking about there's another voice which when I'm reading student papers that that utilize AI too much. And that voice is something I picked up on. I was trying to what is this other voice? It was at the very beginning of so the usage of AI in our college classrooms, and I was trying to understand what this voice was, and so the piece in Double Helix is about that. The other thing I've been thinking an awful lot about is authorship, and what I mean by that is so. If AI is an LLM, a large language model, and we all have some input into that LLM, who really is the author? It's not the AI, because the AI is just compiling all these voices, right? And squeezing it through a bottleneck and putting and so pumping things out based on all the input. So in essence, if we're putting in the prompt and the output is also a piece of us, who really is the author? So who really is the author? So who really is the author? I'm thinking of that in the concept is when we write a paper on our experiences, and we are talking about or we're writing about the experiences we've had. Well, we didn't have the experience in a vacuum. Those that were with us, those people that have taught us, those scholars we have read, the people we have had relationships with in the past, so teachers, friends, etc. All those become the author of us, right? So in a way, all the things we think about derive from those experiences, just like how the output of AI is derived from all the experiences that it experiences, right? So I've been trying to kind of work through that process, and that is something we might be able to come back through if we get to questions for through emails, what have you. And I'm probably going to be writing on this at some point. I've presented this one a few times, but it's where my thinking is going right now. Of course, we recognize students over rely on AI because it's easy, and I can't blame them for that, because I think if I had this tool and I was in a running classroom, yeah, I think I might use it too. I don't know how much. I don't know if I don't want to use this, so versus I want to use this. I'm not sure which way it would go. Of course, with Gen A, we have fears from faculty, and that's taking our jobs. So admin concerns about what the outcome for students this might be, and also we have concerns of ethics, so privacy and FERPA, and so it's been other concerns along that line. So for me, the first year writing becomes part of that bridge of Dysfluency. So it's a framework for how we can adapt, because when you are a Dysfluent speaker, you have to adapt to your surroundings. You've noticed during this presentation, I've had to adapt a few times in what I was saying, or I had to kind of force my way through the word I was stuck on. And so when we imitate, we find new pathways of things. And then AI can help us moderate the writing encounters that students have. And that creates like that bridge type of concept. Of course, we do have concerns about incorporating AI into the classroom, like training of faculty. How are they going to engage with the AI? Are they going to want to engage with the AI? With AI? There is some concern from faculty that they don't want to engage too much with AI because it takes away some of the aspects of the classroom. On the flip side of that, which we'll get to the benefits in just a moment, the over reliance on AI can come from faculty, from students, or like from admins who see how we get so immediate responses to things. But that's not a human doing it. That's AI doing it. So another concern is, does the school do we have Wi-Fi access, and is it reliable? Is a broadband reliable? At my school, it's not always the most reliable. Sometimes it's down for 5 minutes, and sometimes it's down like for 5 hours. It just depends on what's happening at the time. So if you lack the access that's consistent, that affects how you can use AI. And of course, there is so a lot of research on the diversity and nuance of the language and how AI reads that, how it codifies that, and so we have to be mindful of those things as well. So the AI feedback, as we know, can be good, can hallucinate, or it can be bad. So having guardrails for AI. So coming from the school or from the instructor, and then you're also having some way to check those outputs to make sure it's giving so students or faculty or whomever that's using the AI so decent outputs, because again, so AI is known for those types of issues. There are a lot of AIs. Yes, we're out there. There's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Gemini, and there's many more out there, and there's more coming up each day. And you can create your own as well, like just for your class, which I've done for my classes. If I go to poe.com, you can create your own chatbot for your class, and I've done that to help students with like the syllabus. And also created a writing writing a chatbot to help them with their own writing that asks them a series of questions to get them thinking in terms of the assignment. Okay, of course, with concerns there are benefits. I think long term it will decrease the faculty load. So we can train the AI to pick up the things that are the lower order concerns that we don't need to address, that can be addressed and taught by an AI, and the AI can work with student to make sure those lower order concerns are no longer a concern, and it leaves us to deal with the higher order or like the global concerns. Of course, AI to some degree does not judge the inputs or like the ideas, which might provide students with a level of comfort if they are unafraid, if they're afraid to ask a question in class, so they can ask the AI, and the AI is not going to snicker at them. So it's not going to give us that kind of an output. And of course, the feedback is immediate. When you punch a thing in the AI, within a few seconds, you have pages, right? And it's it's available for us 24/7. I think it can. I think it can improve in student engagement, because I think students might be working at 3 a.m. I no longer work at 3 a.m. So maybe 1:30, but not 3 a.m. Not anymore. So I think the inclusion of AI through a Dysfluency lens can also provide a wider range of writing styles and voices. And I'll get to some examples of how we might maybe use that in just a few minutes. And I think it can enhance our vocabulary and usage. Okay, activities. So this is kind of where I wanted the meat of the presentation to go, but I know I'm running at 18 minutes, so I'm kind of trying to move this along a little bit, so forgive me for that. And of course, if you got questions, I would be happy to respond via email. So activities, explaining differently. So the Erasmus example, so we're just paraphrasing, so paragraphs or sentences. So your letter pleased me greatly. How can so using AI to think through some of that, and so we're running the ideas through AI, and so having it so give us feedback on how effective that might have been. Through the source example, so it's rephrasing words, it's rephrasing sentences, it's rephrasing ideas, and this is smaller than the one above it. So thinking more on the word level instead of the sentence type of level. Concept rephrasing. So think of how you would describe putting on a dress shirt without using the word button. That is an idea of writing that in. So writing that into an AI without using the word button. And then can the AI guess what you're trying to do? Or so playing a game like that. So a concept rephrasing by not using certain aspects of what the activity is, like putting on a belt, but not using the word buckle, or driving a car by not using the steering wheel, or by not riding the steering wheel, or so writing a sentence without using the word subject or noun. So these are examples of concept rephrasing by not using a specific ISO idea of that concept. So circumlocution with AI feedback. So describing a concept and getting feedback from the AI to see how effective it might have been. So writing like a specific OES author. If the student or if you have a specific the author in mind, so do some of the performative type of imitation of that author. Write a paragraph or two, and then run it through the AI and says, and then you can ask, does this sound like Stephen King, or does this sound like Faulkner, or whoever the author might be? So running it through that and getting feedback on the type of text being put in. So breaking something down is the next one. So the reverse. So instead of building something up, you break it down. So putting in like a paragraph and then breaking it down about how that paragraph was like instructed. So doing it backwards sort of way. Me versus AI, both attempting the style of the author and see who does it better. Again, so in some ways, I'm trying to gamify AI because I think it's a better way. So it can be a good way to engage with students. Playing in the genres. So if you can, so writing something as an academic piece, then as a fiction piece, then as a poem, then as an essay. So you see how the genres can come into play here, and you can have the same topic and writing it in different ways of that, and then comparing it or running it through AI to see how effective it might have been and how one can improve. And then the different types of imitation. So structural, contextual, and then performative. Those are the three that you can play with in that sandbox of AI. Those are the activities that I kind of developed. I've used some of these, not all of them, but I found them to be pretty effective because we are utilizing the AI. So we're training students to use the AI in a meaningful way and a useful way that they can transfer those skills to real world activities. So the outcomes of using AI through a Dysfluency lens are, I think, building the confidence of our students. So giving them the experience of using AI. Some have a lot and some don't. So providing the ones that don't with more of the experience, so gives them the advantage that some might not have. Of course, we have to do that in like an ethical way, because that training is going to help them long term to avoid some of the pitfalls that we know some AI So the usage of some AI has gotten us into. Again, I think it can decrease the faculty workload. So allow students to self-eval themselves in a non-threatening way, and allows them to recognize that skill of being self-critical. I think at this stage of my career, so I can read my own writing and go, yeah, that's not very good. I need to work. I just want to keep working on this. I need to rephrase this. I need to do whatever, right? And so that is a skill that they develop across time. And then lastly, of the outcomes, I think we need to empower students by using AI, because it is a tool to build the confidence. But confidence is different from empowerment, because we're giving them the tools to be effective in using AI. And so my closing quote, and I thank you for your time, is some people call this artificial intelligence, but the reality is this technology will enhance us. So instead of artificial intelligence, I think will augment our intelligence. And with that, I appreciate your time. That is my contact. So in information, craig.a.meyer@jsums.edu, and my LinkedIn is there. This will be provided in a link on YouTube, and if you're welcome to share. And I look forward to you, to your feedback, and thank you kindly.